Those males were Daniel Mallet, Brendan Harris, Danny Hume, Joseph Hume, and a male called Ryan Herbert.
At first, the teens are pleasant enough. They chat with the couple, and even bum a few cigarettes from them. Then, the conversation turns nasty. Brendan Harris begins making derogatory remarks. He makes fun of the couple and their get-up.
White nationalist behavior.
His comments amuse his buddies, who start to rough the couple up. Robert Mulvey attempts to protect his girlfriend, but the youth turn on him brutally and beat him up. Sophie Lancaster pleads with the thugs to leave them alone, but the youths go berserk. Brendan Harris and Ryan Herbert pounce on the young woman, beating on her violently. Sophie Lancaster falls to the ground. Savagely, Harris literally stomps on her head with both feet. Some youths who have witnessed the assault call an ambulance.
Good work, Caucasoid.
Two ambulances arrived, which consisted of some very experienced paramedics who gave evidence to the police to suggest that, despite their experience, they couldn't even ascertain the sexes of the victims, such was the swelling and the amount of blood at the scene. Both Robert and Sophie were taken to hospital.
Sophie is brain dead. She is transferred to Fairfield Hospital in Bury, then to the neurology unit at Hope Hospital in Salford.
Robert made a partial recovery, survived the attack, albeit he still now suffers from the effects of the attack.
I wish he'd left me to die, if I'm to be honest.
Unfortunately, Sophie died 13 days later on the 24th of August as a result of the injuries.
The next day, the backup police put some 20 officers on the Mulvey-Lancaster case. The investigation is directed by Detective Dean Holden. Tens of witnesses are questioned. The noose is tightening.
We knew in the early stages of the inquiry anecdotal information of who was present, and at the outset we had to trace all those individuals to try and ascertain whether they were either a witness or potentially an offender. And in particular, when we visited Daniel Mallet as a potential witness, he conceded straight away that he'd been involved in the attack on Robert Maltby, and he was arrested. Both Herbert and Harris were very well known to local officers for incidents of antisocial behaviour, and also well known for a previous incident at the park where they attacked him.
Look at that Caucasoid.
Ryan Stephen Herbert and Brendan Desmond Harris are not choir boys. They both come from dysfunctional milieus and broken families.
Brendan Harris and Ryan Herbert had similar backgrounds in terms of they were from what is best described as a broken family, no father figure. Both of their fathers were estranged from their mothers and were no longer involved in their lives. Harris was slightly different to Herbert in that he didn't have any siblings, but he associated quite a lot with Herbert, and I think probably was given a steer from Herbert in terms of his behaviour.
Ryan Herbert, nicknamed Razzie for Peanuts, is described as a violent and vicious lad.
Herbert did have an older sibling who was involved in violence and criminality, and he also had cousins involved in violence and criminality. And so when you look at the profile of Herbert's family, the role models in his family, the older siblings and cousins, were people who had previously been involved in criminality and violence. And as a result of that, it's no surprise that he went down that road of criminality.
The night of the attack on Sophie Lancaster and Robert Mulvey, he has spent the evening drinking beer with his friends. This gang of louts brags about deflowering a young girl earlier that same evening. Brendan Harris, just an adolescent, uses drugs and alcohol. He has an explosive temper and is subject to mood swings.
Typical white nationalist behavior again.
Doublebeat Park. Investigators identify the assailants. Brendan Harris, Ryan Herbert, Joseph Halm, Daniel Halm, and Daniel Mallet. Then, the day after Sophie Lancaster's death, the charges are amended to second-degree murder. The trial date for the 5 adolescents is March 2008 in Preston.
All 5 pleaded guilty on Section 18 with intent on rob, and 3 of them, the murder charges, were dropped.
This gratuitous crime touches the British public, and during the judicial proceedings, young people leave flowers at the crime scene.
We set up
White privilege again.
really.
3 got off.
Local bands could talk to each other because we were going to have, she would have been 21 in